Welcome to another edition of the forum here on Canal de English. Our guest today is Mr. Roland Ngong, who is a part-time lecturer at the University of Buea. But before that, he was an international civil servant who has worked with the United Nations, the African Union, and also, very important, and something that I like personally, he has worked for 11 years, if I'm not wrong, at the International Criminal Court in Arusha in Tanzania. With him, we are going to talk about a number of things, especially things that pertains to the well-being of this country. Please do not go away. Well, you know, that's the problem that happens with live presentation. Our guest today, his phone just rang, but he's going to turn it off. As I said, we are receiving here Roland Ngong, who is a part-time lecturer in speech writing, something like that. And also he has worked in public speaking at the University of Buea. But before that, he has worked for the United Nations in Addis Ababa. He has also worked for the Organization of African Unity, but currently known as the African Union, and has also worked with the International Criminal Court in Arusha. And the criminal court was focused on what? On the incidents or the situation that took place in Rwanda in 1994, where within 100 days, almost 1 million people were killed by Hutu extremists. And the ideologue of that extremism was a certain Tionex Bagasora, who got a brief refuge here in Cameroon before being whisked back to Tanzania. Mr. Roland Ngong, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation and for receiving me.
Good. I want to let our viewers know that you are all the way from Kumbo to here, so which means I want to send our hearty greetings to our teeming viewers in the town of Kumbo, Jakiri, and the rest of the Bui division, or the Northwest region in general and the Southwest region in particular. So, well, when we have someone like you here who is a lecturer in part-time lecturer at the University of Buea in public speaking, right?
And interpretation.
And interpretation.
Yes.
And then we also have someone who has had this international experience working for international organizations such as the United Nations, the African Union, especially in Rwanda or Arusha, where it was the headquarters. I don't know.
Correct. That's where the court was.
The court of the International Criminal Court for Rwanda,
yes,
which is like the alter ego of the International Court of Yugoslavia.
That is correct, for Africa.
For Africa, great.
Yeah.
Now tell us, before going to other subjects, I want to talk about the court in Rwanda, right?
Yes.
For someone like you who is quite experienced, and in regard to what is going on in Cameroon right now,
yes,
I read in some newspapers that there is a renowned advocate in this country, but he has not confirmed whether he did it, but it's based on the reports I read from newspapers that is Ben Muna, that he has filed a case against Cameroon at the International Criminal Court at The Hague for crime against humanity or something like that. Do you think that in regard to what is going on in Cameroon currently, does it warrant a charge at the ICJ?
At the ICC?
ICC, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Not being a lawyer or a legal practitioner, I cannot pronounce on that. I hesitate to pronounce on that. What I can say is this: if you look at the convention governing matters of, say, abuse of human rights, genocide, crimes against humanity, it makes clear reference to people having their rights abused on the basis of their race, religion, I think creed is the same thing, etc. I'm wondering whether what is happening now in Cameroon measures up to that. That is why I hesitate to pronounce, not being a legal practitioner myself. I really hesitate.
You really, okay.
Yes.
No, let me put it the other way around.
Yes.
Based on the definition that you gave, right?
Correct.
If let's now zero down to one thing like the internet ban,
Yes.
which is affecting only a single region or two regions of Cameroon that share the same values, the same culture,
yeah.
as opposed to the majority.
Yes.
If you ban internet from persons who speak English, the same culture, whereas those who speak French have internet, isn't that also enough, or doesn't that qualify for discrimination, and which might also be good for the ICC court?
Again, I hesitate to pronounce on that. Let me say this though. This action taken by the government is in every respect a blanket punishment, a collective punishment. My problem with that is that, one, the government definitely has the resources. It has the Secret Service, it has the intelligence service, it has the police, the gendarmes, etc., to identify and target persons who are deemed or are alleged to have circulated messages that are, in the government's view, intended to undermine security, the safety, the peace, etc. of the country. They do have those resources. So, in the eyes of a lot of people who are, say, innocent, there is, I wouldn't say discrimination, it is just unfair.
It's just unfair, right?
It's unfair.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk on something else.
Yes.
Because besides you are a part-time lecturer.
Yes.
If I understand, you do sometimes give lectures not only at the University of Buea,
Yes.
but out of the country.
Correct.
And not just in interpretation or whatever, but sometimes on how to communicate.
That is correct.
Now, please, could you tell us more about that?
Oh, yes. I'm more comfortable in that area
Yes.
because that is my area.
Okay.
You see, when you have to communicate, you must at least take into account 4 components. The first and primary component or criteria is one of ensuring that the end user gets the information. Otherwise, news would serve no purpose if the message is not properly conveyed to enable the end user understand what that purpose or goal is. That's the first criteria. The second one, for those who communicate, it is the ease with which you communicate. And when I talk about ease of communication, I'm referring to things like your use of language, your stock of vocabulary. You can play with the vocabulary as you see fit, depending on the seriousness or gravity of the situation or the kind of message you want to convey again. I give you an example. You can say, I don't like this. You can also say, I cannot tolerate this. I cannot accept this. I cannot live with this. And if you want to push it a bit, I cannot countenance this. You see? So it depends on the kind of message you want to convey. Some other example, like for instance, some people can say, oh, there is no evidence. Some others will say, there's no shred of evidence. There is no iota of evidence. There is no scintilla of evidence, you know. So in terms of ease, you have to have a stock of vocabulary within which, as it were, you navigate in order to be able to convey your message. That's the second one. The third one is the fluency of communication. In other words, you have to master the language to the extent where, when you are communicating, people are comfortable listening to you. You know, you don't hesitate. Repetition is not very good. I'll give you an example. In Cameroon, I've heard this word used and misused and abused.
Which word is that?
Put in place. You hear everybody, oh, the measures put in place, put in place. When I hear that, I say, boy, something like domain. We really misuse domain in this country. Which other word have I heard? But I can understand why we have these kinds of situations, because we have interferences.
Of the French language?
Not only of the French, our local dialect and Pidgin English.
Pidgin English, yes.
So you have 3 levels of interference. So to navigate through those 3 is not easy, particularly if you're not someone who reads a lot, or if you're not someone who interacts with people in that non-Pidgin, non-dialectal, and French
yeah.
language. If you don't interact with them, your ability or the versatility of your mind in that particular area is somehow inhibited. You understand? And the last one is your demeanor when you want to communicate, particularly if you're using the television. People must trust you just by looking at you. They must know that this man is telling the truth, or this man is a propaganda specialist. This is the Goebbels of the government.
Of the government, yes.
You see what I'm saying? So,
like the Chirumas of the government.
Now, you're taking me back to an area where I suggested I was uncomfortable.
You're uncomfortable. With. All right, let's stay with Goebbels.
With Goebbels.
Yes.
Right. You know, or you have the Okokondem during the Biafran War. You remember him?
Exactly, yes.
Correct. Oh, he was first class.
Exactly.
You see? So,
now let me ask you another question. We know we don't have a lot of time, but
that's right.
If you were to give an advice to Cameroonian journalists,
yes,
the broadcasters that we are, or the print. Anyway, let's focus on the broadcasters because you talked about the demeanor.
Correct.
What will you tell them?
First of all, you should convey the image of someone who is sure of himself or herself. Because if you sound uncertain, it creates doubt in the minds of the end user.
And have you been able to, when you watch some Cameroonian journalists on TV,
yes,
do they give this type of demeanor of being unconvincing?
Yes, okay. Yes. I won't mention names.
Yeah, you
understand.
We have to avoid that. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
But there have been journalists whom I've watched on Cameroon TVs who clearly are unsure of themselves, who clearly do not give that image, or let me not give, you convey that image that is reassuring to the end user. When I talk about the end user all the time, I'm referring to the public.
To the public, yes.
Right. So it does not convey that impression.
Okay.
Yes.
But I'm sorry to be interrupting you,
No problem.
Because when we have someone like you, I really want to squeeze you and have a lot, take out the juice from you. But now, if you were to advise the journalists,
yes,
what will you do? In the problem there, sometimes the vocabularies, as you said,
yes,
and the fluency, because some people think that it is to be verbose, use big words.
Keep it simple.
As a speech writer, as a lecturer, what advice can you give to Cameroonian journalists?
2 things.
Yes.
The first one is, to the extent possible, avoid the French structure. Like, I give you an example. You will hear in French, l'Association des femmes de Douala organise un symposium de 5 jours sous le thème de l'autonomisation de la femme au Cameroun, for instance. You would hear a journalist say something like, the Association of Douala Women is organizing a 5-day symposium under the theme of empowerment of women, for instance.
It's an influence of French on the language.
Absolutely. For me, because there is this very simple slogan in English. It is called KISS. Keep it short and simple. KISS.
Exactly.
Keep it short and simple. I would have said, the Association of Douala Women are organizing a 5-day symposium. The theme of the symposium is the empowerment of women. You see, it is short, it is simple, it is targeted. So you don't follow the same symmetry, the same structure as the French. you know. That is one. The second thing I would advise journalists to do is, it is like the ingredient. Language and words is like the seasoning in a sauce. You see what I'm saying?
Spicing.
The spicing, that is the word.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to read a lot. And your mind must be versatile. It must think out of the box, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, you think out of the box. If you stay within the box all the time, you will hear things in the school milieu. And it doesn't make sense. Like you go to, it has become customary in Cameroon, for instance, to use the word animated. Whenever I hear the word animated, I think in terms of, cartoons.
Cartoons, yeah, exactly.
Right. They are usually inanimate.
Yes.
They can be animated. Like, for instance, I give this example so people can follow. Le stage était
animé.
Oui, par la gendarmerie. In English, you would say very simply, the course was organized by the gendarmerie. Simple. Hein? Or, for instance, la chorale des hommes de Douala, la cérémonie était animée par la chorale des hommes de Douala. Very simple. The men's choir in Douala sang at the ceremony, or provided entertainment at the ceremony. It's very simple.
Brilliant. Now, the other question I would like to ask you this time around, I want us to come out of the box a little bit. The current situation in Cameroon.
Yes.
You've worked in Tanzania.
Yes.
Can we make a kind of comparison? Because sometimes I do. Am I wrong to compare Cameroon to Tanzania?
No, you are not.
Okay.
I lived in Tanzania for over a decade. And what impressed me was the kind of foresight exhibited by President Nyerere. President Nyerere had come to terms with the fact that he was no longer interested in standing for election or re-election. So he did his best to bequeath what I would call a constitution that is acceptable to the people. That is why, for instance, in Tanzania, you can't go beyond 2 terms. You can't. Unfortunately for President Nyerere, he was the head of the party, the chairman of Chama cha Mapinduzi, and for two presidents, that is Ali Hassan Mwinyi and Benjamin Nkapa, for those 2. And he made sure that you did your 2 terms as chairman of the party. He would not interfere in government business, but when the 2 terms are up, there is no way you're going to stand again. And so it had gone into the psyche of the people now. And so when people like Kikwete came into power, and currently you have Magufuli,
yeah.
There's no problem. All of them know you have 2 terms, and that is it.
But now the people will tell you that, okay, the thing that the Chama cha Mapinduzi
yes,
is there since 50 years.
That is correct. But you would agree also that regardless of the person who comes, things change. Like what Magufuli is doing now in Tanzania, it is incredible compared to the other presidents, compared to Kikwete, for instance. Kikwete, and maybe not Kikwete himself, but some of his cronies were outright corrupt.
And John Magufuli is really fighting head-on against corruption.
Oh my goodness. It is ruthless.
Good, ruthless fight against corruption. But to conclude, we don't have much time. I think I'll beg for indulgence to give us 1 more minute again, or 2, is about the current situation in Cameroon, right? Where the government says, or the president has said categorically, that the form of the state will not be changed, or is not subject to debate, or negotiation.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, is going to happen?
It is a very difficult question because positions are entrenched. Something has to give. All right. The Commission on Bilingualism and Multiculturalism has been set up. They will, I hope, be able to fulfill their mandate. That is my hope. But I am realistic enough to know that it would be a very intricate mandate for them. Why do I say so? It is because the other party, let me put it that way, those who are on strike,
yes, the consortium,
for instance, yes, they are saying we want a different form of arrangement of this country. So what happens now? What happens now? What will this commission report on? They can help. They can help in terms of promoting bilingualism, promoting multiculturalism. Will they be mandated to deal with the core political issues? Because the current Anglophone problem is a multidimensional problem. Mm-hmm. So how are they going to solve it? How are they going to help? That is my concern.
That is your concern, sir.
That's right.
I'm afraid we just had 26 minutes.
Yes.
We would have wanted to have you more, but we hope to have you again once you are here. If you have an opportunity to come back here in Douala,
by the grace of God,
please feel very free to come here. We'll be very happy to have you. Well, it is on that note that we are going to, we'll be rounding off our program today with Roland Ngong, who is a part-time lecturer at the University of Buea and also an interpreter. He is also a former civil servant. Are you former or still in act?
Former. I'm retired.
Former international civil servant. But please do not go away. Stay tuned to programs on Canal de English. Coming up is the news with Christelle Catala.